Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center. I'm delighted to be joined with Evan with his fantastic film, The Man in the Blue Suit. Let's take another clip.
Keep having these run-ins, don't we, Charlie?
Evan, welcome to New Filmmakers LA. Welcome to the family. Really nice to have you here in person. I've got so many questions for the film and the journey you took me through. But for those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
Sure. Well, it's lovely to be here, so thank you. Yeah, my film is The Man in the Blue Suit, and it's a spaghetti western with a twist.
A twist and a half, absolutely. This was, I mean, firstly, like, I love the whole setting and the scene that you've done with this. This wasn't your typical Western though. This had definitely different elements that I've never seen before. And I always love when you're showing something that's new that I haven't seen, not to mention, you know, the twist part of it as well. You alluded to this a bit last night. It was on the stage at the festival, but where did this kind of inspiration idea start for you, and then turn it into a film?
Sure. So it started with the seemingly mundane,
Yeah.
which is me at a friend's house who happens to have a dog, the doorbell ringing, and the dog not being happy about it. And what ended up transpiring from there was the dog was at the door. The door opened, there was a screen there, and there was a figure silhouetted on the porch in such a way where the sun was kind of really lovely backlighting them and making this kind of cool tableau if they were framed in the doorway. And the dog was standing there very alert, very unhappy. And the way that it looked for me was that the man in the doorway, who ended up being the mailman, had a bucket hat on that was silhouetted from the back. Sun was lovely, and he looked like John Wayne in The Searchers at the end of The Searchers, where John Wayne's in the frame of the doorway. And for some reason, it just all attuned in a way that I didn't almost have control over. And it just, for me, looked like a cowboy framed in a Western that I had seen before. And so as that was occurring, I started to think more and more about how dogs speak the language of respect, which is kind of what cowboys speak in a Western. And from there, it almost was like the story just kind of came out of my brain and just unrolled itself.
Yeah.
And I kind of followed my intuition when it came to using the genre that we are familiar with, but then having certain things that came to me that weren't necessarily of that. So I kind of started to just find room to wiggle around and play. And but that initial incident created a genre in and of itself. You know, it was like as if the Western was being expressed through a mailman and a dog. And there we go.
I love that you went to your friend's house that night, because look what unfolded. You never know when the inspiration's going to come.
It's good to have friends.
Yeah, it's good to have friends. No, but this was a really, really clever idea. I mean, you know, I was in it to the journey that you were taking me on, but I was also just loving it when you can, I don't want to say you want to manipulate your audience, but when you make, you know, take yourself on an honest journey where you don't know where you're taking us. You had really, really great actors. Just like, I mean, I was loving it, because it's not also easy to take something that we've also seen that's, you know, back in a certain, you know, different time era, et cetera, et cetera. You brought it into the modern day. How was the whole experience and the kind of writing process and sort of how you wanted to accumulate it in present day? And how was it creating these characters?
Yeah, the writing process was fun because it was kind of a cleave between modern and timeless.
Yes.
And so for the beginning part of making that writing possible was really just making sure that we weren't emphasizing anything that connoted something that was modern to it, but also having it be something that could be anytime, almost timeless. But saying you want something to be timeless automatically becomes a little bit generic. So for me, it was avoiding detail in a certain intentional way of saying, we don't have cars. We're not thinking about the mail. We're not thinking about modern day bureaucracy. We're just focused on this is the good guy, this is the bad guy.
Yeah,
And
you did
that's
that
what we
really
know.
well. You did it so good because it didn't matter. We was in the characters and their stance with each other, which was really, really clever.
Yeah, that's where the shot with the eyeballs came to me, in that what we're really seeing is just the people. That's what that's what's important. And as we come out of that, then there's more to the people, and then there's more to the details, and then there's more to the background. So we're able to reveal something that's a little bit telling you how to watch the movie.
Yeah, you slowly revealed you had this in the palm of your hand, Evan. It was amazing. No, I love that. That was very, very clever, actually. And I didn't once think about the mail, actually. So you did that too.
Cool.
But these character developments, I mean, it must have been fun for them to play. Like, how do you work as a director with your actors?
Sure. Well, I trained as a Shakespearean actor back in the day. Yeah. So one of the actress is friend of mine from training. Actually, we trained at the same program together.
Yeah.
And so her and I had a very strong language to talk about motivation, intentionality, temperament, color, all those things. And we also read similar books, just kind of had the same way of imagining dynamic imagery together. So with that, it became very fun to kind of have an interplay of, we can just say little limericks to each other and interact and kind of have shorthand very quickly.
Yeah.
And the same actually went with each of the other actors I worked with. Taylor, who is the lead, he's Charlie, was a close friend of mine from New York City, and I had worked with him in several different contexts, whether it be just working regular jobs or artistic stuff. So once again, we had experience of just creating something together. And Jason, the man in the blue suit, was actually someone I studied with briefly while I was at FSU. He was teaching an acting course.
Oh, wow.
And his persona that he put on as a teacher for me always had a certain kind of flair to it that stuck out to me in a way that was very dynamic and fun. And when I was imagining this script, I saw Jason with his kind of facial hair and temperament and ability to go very intense but also be very soft.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and it almost, the image didn't leave me as I was writing it. So it was kind of like he almost cast himself unintentionally in the role. And so working with all of that for me was allowing those colors that I already was familiar with to just live in the script and let the script kind of speak to them rather than me tell them how to interpret it.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I just had a little bit of nudging along the way of just saying, hey, if you've got nothing to do, watch a Sergio Leone movie.
Yeah.
And take in the kind of operatic feeling of grandiosity to it and just see what happens.
This is amazing. Like, I love your journey of how you brought together your cast, through people that and it's almost like they've come into the world at the right time, and it's amazing. It's just the journey of where you created story to how you brought your actors together. It's all like it all fell into place with the right people. It feels like, yeah.
It felt a little bit like the universe was deciding it for me, which was nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. Now, last night was one of the questions that this was a lot. I felt so sorry for you when I heard this story, but you did allude to us. I was asking about some of the bigger challenges that you had.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like working with animals? Was that plain sailing easy? How was this dynamic? Because you did have animals involved.
Yeah, sure. The big story of tension when it came to animals on this was actually not the animal itself, but the bureaucracy of allowing an animal to be on set.
Yeah.
And that is something, no matter what, when you're dealing with circumstances that make it so you're just not an adult over 18, you're dealing with something that requires extra paperwork.
Yeah.
And so it's the same with young children on a set, and it's the same with animals on a set. And that you're having to get clearance to be able to have an animal be on set with legal precautions that are necessary for it. So what I had to do for that process, very, very, very forward thinking, I sent paperwork into the Animal Protection Services at FSU where I was making the film, and I had sent that in, I think maybe January, February,
Oh,
something like
wow.
that. I made the film in May.
Oh,
So
goodness.
yeah, so I sent all that paperwork to them, basically outlining the need and the necessity for the story, what my plan was for safety precautions with the animal on set, how I was going to handle that. I had cast an animal not long after I had submitted the paperwork and got the owners to sign the paperwork, got that sent over, and everything was processed on my end. And then you sit and wait,
Yeah.
which is really what a lot of filmmaking is. You're just
Yeah.
waiting for the next shoe to drop. And so that process of waiting was something I had done my work for quite some time and then was waiting for my response with. And then I did not get a response for quite some time from the people that were, in charge of doing that. And they've got a lot going on. So what happened in that regard was that they did not get back to me until about a week before production in terms of saying, we might not be able to give you the animal. We might not be able to clear this. And my job then became contacting the right people at the right time to make sure that the bureaucracy overhead can clear things in a way where I necessarily can't clear them, of saying to an assistant dean or to a producer or to someone who's working below the person who's supposed to be contacting me. Hey, I had this paperwork process on this date. We need the dog for this story. And so in a lot of ways, they were saying to me, do you really need the dog? And
You're
this
like,
was one of
"Yes."
those rare circumstances where I had to say, absolutely yes. And so to justify that to the overheads, we did not get the clearance to have the dog on set until the day before the dog was supposed to be there.
Oh, that's stressful.
Yeah. Fun story about the dog, though. Dog was named Hero. Yeah, very appropriately named. Trained very astutely by his owners. And Hero was brought onto set. And the minute that Hero entered the set, he peed on the mailbox.
Perfect.
So that's once again where I knew the universe was on my side.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh my god, what a journey. So I mean, goodness me, you did everything right your end, you did by the book, and you still had to go through all that whole process. But I'm glad because you couldn't have had a film without a dog. I mean, it's just impossible. Yeah. So I'm glad it all worked out.
Could have a stuffed animal.
And peeing on the sofa. I mean, so peeing in the mailbox. That's perfect. So looking back, making this film, I mean, it's so nice. You give us so much goodness me, ability to just have fun and be entertained when you're watching it. What did you want your audience to experience from your film? Because I mean, it was still a lot of fun.
The fun aspect was certainly something I wanted. And I also had a very clear intention to kind of confuse people in an amusing way.
You did that, yeah.
Yeah. And what I wanted was for people to enjoy themselves, not necessarily know why, and ask themselves, why am I enjoying this?
Yeah.
And what I found to be really interesting is that questioning can also create a little bit of accountability at the very tail end of the film in terms of this was familiar to me in a way I couldn't describe. And I was still not completely cued into what exactly was going on. And then once everything became resolved, I'm amused. But also, what am I really amused by?
Yeah.
And so it was this process for me that I didn't have that story arc mapped out, emotionally speaking, until the movie was really fully baked in my mind.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I started to make it, especially on set, that arc of the story for me was very clear of this, you're not supposed to have answers here.
I love that. And honestly, I really did feel watching your film, I found myself amused. I found myself connected. I found myself enjoying these characters. I found myself, I'm going on the journey. And then, there were several times where I'm like, wait, what? Where are you taking me? So, I mean, that's the beauty. Keep doing that.
Cool.
I love that. I literally love that because it's so nice as a audience member to just kind of not know where you're going, but love the journey you're going on. So you should be a filmmaker, Evan. That's great.
Yeah.
Seriously, great job. What is next for you?
So right now I'm in the process of releasing another film I made. It's called Private Eye. And it's a kind of noirish voyeur piece that also meditates on poetry in the modern world. And so I'm currently sending that out and hoping that people can see it and enjoy it. I enjoyed making it.
Yeah.
The lead actors in that film actually are the two lead actors from this film. They got along so wonderfully that I wanted to bring them back. We all felt like a family when we were making a movie, and I wanted to do it again.
I feel like you watch a lot of film and you've learned from a lot of the film that you've experienced, and I'm so glad that you're a filmmaker, because I feel like you've got incredible stories to tell, continue to tell. I'm just curious to finalize on, like, what stories do you want to continue to tell in your career? Because obviously early into your career.
Yeah. I really like stories that feel absurd yet universal.
Yeah.
And have they speak about something we're all familiar with in a way that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Very general, but I like to think of something as easy as The Mailman as something that we can all understand through a lens of interpretation.
Yeah.
So I like to think of what are the things we take for granted for around us all the time, and how can we have a perspective on those that elevates them in a way that shines light on them and makes them maybe fun but also dynamic. And then from there, meditating on loneliness, reality, being existentially adrift,
Yeah.
and understanding that through an absurd lens, because I think being a human is a little absurd in and of itself.
And at the same time, as you're sharing all those thoughts, makes us feel more human, which I love. So, oh my goodness, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're a filmmaker. Please keep making absurd things for us, because we're on it. We're ready for it.
I'm ready. I'm ready to make more.
But thank you for the man in the blue suit, and welcome to the New Filmmakers family. Thank you very much.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.